doing up until now. I'm in a goofy mood. Let's do it.
Okay. Um, Hello and welcome to Crow Jam. This is the podcast where two sisters and an occasional guest have 1 hour to develop and pitch an original board game concept. And this week or this fortnight, our guest is my lovely friend and colleague, Amelie. Say hi, Amelie.
Hi.
I am, of course, your host, Miriam, and your other host is my sister, Georgia.
It's me, same voice.
Amelie, would you mind telling the listener like a little bit about yourself and perhaps about your like gaming preferences and habits?
Oh yeah, for sure. Also, the urge to not say hello, Amelie, in response to that was so big. I thought it. I thought it though. So I'm Amelie. Like I said, I work with Miriam, and she is my friend. And basically, I do law at uni, and my preferences for games is I come from like into like board games. I came in from like doing tabletop role playing mainly. So like I like stuff that has like a little smidgen of narrative in, so like stuff like betrayal and that sort of thing. But I also really like stuff like party games. I came into it from like knowing stuff that like I play around Christmas and stuff. So like stuff like Herd Mentality, Secret Hitler, that sort of thing. Those are like the big ones, and then a little bit of light strategy. I love Dead of Winter and stuff like that. That's like my that's like my wheelhouse, I'd say.
Oh, what a
Okay.
broad wheelhouse. You can
I,
fit
I
so
know.
many wheels in there.
Nice. Okay, so and you brought us our one word prompt for the episode. Do you want to hit us with that?
Yes, so I have chosen the word waves is the word for
Do
today.
you have like, do you want to start us off with like any ideas that you had connected to that or like things around why you chose waves?
Yes, so I thought waves was quite broad, and that's kind of why I chose it, because like I feel like it's one of those words where like my immediate things were like sound waves, waves of enemies, like waves as in like ocean waves, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um my immediate thought was some sort of, because I was thinking about all of the themes of games that like we have at like the cafe and just in general. And it's like I don't know if we have like a kind of surf and Beach Boys-esque
Mm.
kind of game. I feel like that's a niche in the market that could do with filling. So like that was like kind of where I was coming at it at, but I wanted to do like maybe even like a double meaning of like there's like waves of enemies and it's like a surfing themed kind of thing.
Okay,
That's where I was coming at it from.
I immediately want to bounce off of that because yeah, I sort of had like two main ideas with regards to this prompt. Um and the one that I think is probably already exists, but if it doesn't, it seems like a fun game to have a pirate ship tower defense game. So like
Oh,
people are trying, you know,
nice.
like a crew of another ship is trying to board your pirate ship, and you need to like manage your actions and like repel boarders and repair cannon damage and shoot your own cannons and um stuff like that. Um that's that's the one thing that I thought of like as a fun kind of combination of different wave ideas. The other
Mhm.
idea I sort of like is maybe like a beach combing like drafting
Ooh.
game, which I pretty much just imagine being nice because it would be very like tactile and visually appealing. You know, like
Like
just having lots of like shiny shells and stuff in.
I'm imagining like sea glass and stuff, and
Mm.
like yeah, oh yeah.
What about you, Georgia? Did you have any like thoughts off the top of waves?
A lot of the things that have already been said are kind of relate to what I was thinking about. I definitely thought about a surfing game.
Mm.
Um, and I was maybe just, I don't know if I was necessarily thinking of a game about surfing versus like a game where the players or characters are surfers, just like a game with, because I don't surf, and so I don't know that I would be able to make a very authentic attempt at a surfing game, but like a game that kind of drew on like surf culture ideas, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, lovely like bleach blonde himbos, etc.
Yeah.
um, but I also thought about the idea of, waves, as in waves of enemies. I was thinking about more sort of video games, but stuff like Vampire Survivors and things, like when I was thinking about waves. But the idea of a tower defense game is quite exciting to me. Interestingly, I really like the idea of maybe like taking Amelie's idea of sort of like surfing and ocean waves, and your idea, Miriam, of a tower defense game, and actually maybe like sticking those together, like a kind of defend the surf shack kind of vibe or something like that.
Well, who are we defending the surf shack against?
I don't know, a rival gang.
Okay.
Or people who hate surfers. Tourists.
Okay, yeah.
Ooh, like
I feel
jocks.
like surfing isn't a terribly like territorial or
Yeah, no, they're very chill, aren't they?
It's quite
Yeah. That's why they're defending. They're not attacking. It's all defense.
Well, I'm down for something like that.
I guess just on some other ocean things, like I like anything with ocean creatures, kind of notoriously. So whether that could be like a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely, I mean, you guys both have a bit more sort of like on the ground board game experience than me. What is like the tower defense games I've played are digital in nature. So like, what's a tower defense board game? How does it work?
There's basically one that I know of that really fits that description, and it's Castle Panic. Basically, you have a castle. It's made up of like 6 inner walls and 6 outer walls, and there's like hordes of enemies running at you from like 6 directions in the field, and you're just kind of like sharing and playing your warrior cards to try and hit the enemies before they can break down your walls. That's the like very straightforward overview of it. There's quite a lot of like nice little kind of individual variations within it that make it quite a good like co-op game, but
yeah, that's like the only other tower defense one like I know. Like because I was thinking like I'm just picturing like Bloons tower defense in my head, and like I so like yeah, like that's like all I know that's like outside of like the digital sphere.
So in the digital sphere, the one that I would always call on as I think one of the best games ever made is Plants vs Zombies.
Yes, oh my
yeah.
gosh, yeah.
And I mean, you guys presumably have both played it based on your response, but just in case our singular listener hasn't, you have kind of a play space with slots where you can put things in, and the waves of enemies always come from the same direction. They're always coming from this direction, and you are trying to place things anywhere on the play space that will stop them, which does feel to me like it could translate to a physical space relatively easy, creating more like, not strictly speaking passive, but like setting traps and stuff for maybe like pieces that are moving one space a turn. Things like that.
I mean, I'm pretty down for this. I think it would be fun to come up with some kind of like, if we're doing this in a kind of surfy theme, like
I think a pirate ship theme could be really cool as well. I don't know, Amelie, if you've got an opinion on this. I do
No, I'm like both good. Both sound very good. And I did have a thought of like having it maybe be like once around I had like this idea for like a kind of wave dynamic which would work better with like a pirate ship of like everyone either like plays like hits the deck, which means they're guaranteed to like survive a round, or like I had it where you have cards kind of like the thing in what's it called, unmatched, where you have the difference between the 2 cards, and like so you pull a card from the deck and you can like almost like push your luck by like playing a card, and if it's lower than the like wave card, then you like get swept away, or like some of your defense gets swept away maybe, and then but if it's higher you like store those points sort of thing. Like I had the idea for like that kind of thing, like maybe at the end of each round, like a kind of push your luck kind of element to it.
I mean, I like that. I think that there's I don't want to immediately run away from surfers, but I think there's quite a lot of like fun things you could do with
the surfers be the villains?
A pirate.
Oh, surfers versus pirates.
So like the play space is like ocean based,
mm-hmm.
and you're maybe like you've got like maybe a big ship,
mm-hmm.
and also you could maybe like place little ships as obstacles, but the surfers are like moving towards you on sort of like that's them being pushed along by the wave as they move along.
Okay,
that's pretty cool. I like that.
With everyone's permission, start the clock, because it feels like we have got like started on the idea, right?
I don't want to miss that. I'm very excited by the fact that the word for the like flat part of a boat and a collection of cards is deck. Like,
nice.
I feel like there's something there.
There's something in that.
It was when Amelie said hit the deck, and I was like, there's something.
The double meanings.
Look, if you've got a good pun, then you've got 90% of a board game.
Yeah.
Okay, I have started the clock. So okay.
So like a simple-ish idea. Let me just like map out some shapes. Would have like a gridded space so that you know how much to move things along by. And then you would have probably I think like part of that would be marked out as your ship, and you would like trying to stop the surfers getting to your ship.
Okay.
But you can like socket in things like cannons, or you could deploy little boats, things of that sort. That's kind of what I was thinking about. So I don't know how you would, I guess you would like, is it sort of a little bit deck buildery, like you're trying to get the cards that let you do that, or
it feels like a cooperative game, right? Are we talking a co-op game?
I was imagining a co-op game. I was definitely seeing that the waves of enemies would be like a mechanic rather than something controlled by an opposing player.
Yeah.
Like they would just move in predictable ways.
Yeah.
So maybe there's maybe there's some kind of interesting way that we can tie the like actions you do on your turn to the theme. Or yeah, I'm not sure, because like obviously given that I know one tower defense board game, like everything I'm kind of imagining is somewhat based on a Castle Panic type thing, at least in the sense that I'm imagining you kind of have cards that allow you to do actions and stuff.
How do you get to play the cards in Castle Panic? Like how do they get into your hand or whatever?
So it's very, there's no, the only restriction is that you are able to play the card and have it do something. So like you always draw up fully to like your hand size at the start of your turn, and during your turn you can play as many cards as you want. It's just that if your card is like Red Archer and there's nobody in the Red Archer section of the board, you can't use that.
Okay.
So
it seems like you could do lots of different things with a card-based system that wasn't that.
Yeah.
Like whether it's like a kind of draw and discard thing, like maybe you can I don't know, you can discard one card to do a basic action, but if you have 2 or 3 of the same, you can discard 3 of a kind to do like an upgraded version of that, or to upgrade something you already have.
Could there be some kind of like a salvage type thing, so that like when you knock out an enemy, you can like take a risk to try and get something from their surfboard or boat or whatever is left in the water, and then if you manage to get that kind of like levels up your like play actions for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I like that. So that you end up with hopefully like a positive snowballing effect. but you um you need to start getting wins for it to start working. What if there was like a selection of actions that were maybe drawn from a randomized deck, but they had like a token cost? And when you start out, you don't have very many like skull and crossbones tokens. So they would cost like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. But then you gain tokens by taking out enemies.
Okay.
I like that. And then that could kind of link into so at the end of each round, and the thing I was saying with like maybe like the betting at the end of each round is like a way you could also get more tokens for like the next round of enemies sort of thing. Perhaps. So like kind of thing.
So
also, can I put forward go on.
I was just gonna ask you described the thing you were talking about with the difference between two cards. That was from a game I'm not familiar with. So could you give me like a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So how it works in Unmatched is when you attack someone, when you defend, you either have to have higher or like equal to the amount. And if you have lower, it's the difference between the two cards, which is the damage that you take.
Right.
So say if the attack was a 5, you played a 3, you take 2 damage. But if you had like a 6 or above on your defense, you wouldn't take anything. So I was thinking something similar to that with like random wave strength each round. And so either you can enter into it to get more tokens for next round. So you can say, oh, I'm gonna bet 3 doubloons that this isn't like higher than a 3 wave strength. Or I'm gonna just hit the deck this round, I'm not gonna bet anything. Or and like that kind of thing I was kind of thinking perhaps like on each round, and that might be a way to like generate like money between rounds as well as going out and like salvaging.
I really like that idea.
I think that's neat.
One of the things I like about it is there's this idea of wave strength, like the actual like the strength of the ocean wave. But that could be numerical in terms of like how many surfers you could put on a wave. Like,
yeah.
And how is that? So is that sort of like randomly determined? So like as a round starts, like you roll a dice, and that tells you how many guys are coming your way.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
And I can sort of imagine like, I guess like, I mean, we can like workshop this out, but I was thinking like maybe instead of like making a direct choice about how much you're betting, maybe there's just like there's some quantity that you build up during the round, which you're comparing with the wave strength, and you just decide whether you're going to hit the deck, i.e. bet that you've got more defense than
nice
wave, or
I like that,
decide to bet, but like there's always like basically if you hit the deck you have no chance of like securing any gains.
Yes, I like that.
The other thing I was going to ask about is these enemies that are coming your way, would they have different strengths or different abilities, and would that be like randomized, or would you sort of design it so that they were like, you know, that each wave was stronger than the next? So could you have like a kind of like a level 1 guy, and then like a level 2 guy, he's got a hammer?
I'm going to talk about Castle Panic again just because I think that this is one of the neat aspects of its design, and also because when you were drawing surfboards on the previous page, you kind of drew them in a way that made me think of this. But like in Castle Panic, every enemy token is kind of like a little like rounded triangle thing, you know, that has like corners but has curved edges. And they have different amounts of health. That's usually either 1, 2, or 3. And basically the amount of health that the enemy is on is just the number that's pointing inwards. So like a troll has like 3 on one corner, 2 on another corner, and 1 on another corner. And when you hit them, you just rotate it to show how much health it currently has. And it just like it just felt fun to me that you were drawing sort of like little, like I guess little wakeboards that were kind of like a similar shape to that.
Yeah, that's super neat. I've drawn them as kind of like, I guess, tiles. But as you were describing it, what would be super neat is if they were little like standees with like a slot
Yes.
that you could like slot a guy into.
And
Immediately
actually,
about this. Immediately about this, yeah.
there's kind of something about that where like if you could rotate the little guys, that could almost represent their strength when they're like hitting you, kind of thing. Like I get when you're surfing, I guess you kind of like surf at an angle to the wave, but like there could be a kind of thing where like if you can like rotate them, you sort of like knock off their balance and they're easier to,
Okay, so
you
you've kind
know.
of got them like coming straight, like, yeah, as you said, this isn't really how it works, but like the pointy end of the surfboard coming towards you versus like if they were side on or something like that.
Mm-mm.
Or is that not what you were
Yeah.
getting at?
Nice.
So that
No,
kind of
that was what I was
represents their
getting
like
at. I don't
their
know
hit
whether it's
point.
anything.
I don't I quite like it. I do like the idea of them having, you know, like the different little guys having maybe like dealing more damage or having more hit points. And then like maybe when you roll the
Are your
waves,
surfers also Vikings?
yeah, I made them Vikings as well.
Nice, nice.
Well, it was to represent their different
We
strengths.
just
I've also been playing quite a lot of
yeah.
I've been playing one of the Kingdom of Loathing
Oh
games.
right.
So everything's a stick figure with
Yeah.
angry eyebrows
Yeah.
and a hammer right now. Um
Nice, nice.
Honestly, it's such a good aesthetic. Everyone needs to get more on that Kingdom of Loathing train.
yeah, I strongly recommend it. Listener, check out Kingdom of Loathing. I think the original game's free to play online. And West of Loathing and Shadows Over Loathing are both worth checking out. Pay money for them. I want these guys to make games forever. Anyway, all right. So can we just circle back and just really quickly describe what we think we have so far? So I'm gonna go, and if I say anything wrong or if I miss anything, someone just jump in.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a tower defense cooperative game. So I'm interested to know what like different players do. Where you are a pirate ship and your enemies are surfers who come in waves. You are trying to defend your pirate ship against waves of surfers using um, a like a shop of sort of defense options, which cost doubloons. You start out with not many doubloons and you earn more both by taking out surfers or through a bet mechanic after each wave or each turn. After each wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
where you bet the strength of your defenses against this what you predict the strength of the opposing forces will be. And if you don't want to bet, then you sort of hit the deck and you sort of just try and rely on your defenses without spending anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have ended up with 2 or possibly 3 questions. I'm going to start with what is a turn and what is a wave?
So as a rule, in a lot of cooperative games, the kind of like game cycle happens per turn rather than per round. You know, like if you think about Forbidden Island, you always draw new flood cards every turn. In Castle Panic, you always move monsters and get new monsters every turn. And I guess that works as a way of like figuring for player count.
Yeah. So would it be that like every turn the surfers advance 1 from wherever they are?
Mm-hmm.
And that is also a player's turn at the same time where they would be paying doubloons to take actions.
Yeah. And then maybe there is a thing that happens at the end of every round. That's the like wave. That's the like
That's
betting.
when a new that's when you would bet, and that's when a new wave would be rolled as well. So it would be possible for wave 2 to start before you dealt with everyone in wave 1.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I like that.
So and that could be where the ramping up comes from, right? Because I was a little worried that like it would either stay very one note throughout, or alternately that like the first wave would just wipe you out.
What makes an individual player's turn their turn, if that makes sense as a question?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. I wanted to put something forward that is just borrowed from a common thing in cooperative games. You get this in Pandemic and in the Forbidden games. Do different players have different like pirate ship roles that let them do different things?
Okay, yeah.
So maybe they have like, if you think about the shop of cards, maybe each player also has their own like zero cost card.
Oh, nice.
We could have like the lookout gets to like see what surfers are coming up in the deck kind of
Oh,
thing
nice.
for an action, because they're like up in the crow's nest and they can see.
Oh, so they could like sort of look at the top 3 cards of the enemy deck. Oh, so I hadn't even really thought about us having an enemy deck, but that's a great idea because that like just determines what, you know, the like hit points and such of the guys that are headed your way.
And then we've obviously got the powder monkey who gets to like fire cannons.
Or yeah, like drop a mine or something that would, you know, is like a single use thing that will take out one surfer. Yeah, you could have maybe like, could you sort of like build the natural inclination towards quarterbacking that happens in cooperative games into it by having like a captain type? So like the player who's most inclined towards that type of play doesn't get to be the captain or something like that. Like,
or we make them a captain, but that's like that they then don't get their own special ability kind of thing. Like their ability is just like
they just get a cool hat. Like
yeah, oh yeah, I was just like a little hat token or something.
Maybe they get a cool hat and they get to tell another player what that player should do on their turn. And if that player follows the instruction, they get like 1 extra doubloon that round or something. So it's like
nice.
So yeah, sort of like a weirdly like kind of a good tracker for like actually how good at like backseat gaming are you? Like I know that you love to tell us what to do, but like how often was that the right choice?
Yeah, okay. So I feel like that could be a way to make it so that people's roles feel, you know, individual and significant in some way, you know, like, oh well, I'll use my zero cost thing to plant a floating mine and then I'll do this and that, like,
yeah.
In that case, I feel like it should be the rule that like if you don't have the captain's hat, you like you're not allowed to quarterback. Like, it's like punishable in some way. Everyone frowns.
Walk the plank.
You have to walk the plank. Yes, exactly. Okay. So my next question is, what does winning look like and what does losing look like? Losing, like, presumably your ship has a certain number of hit points, and if, you know, if it takes a certain amount of damage, then it's over. But do we have a sense of like what that might look like? I was sort of imagining like the end of the board sort of being like the edge of your ship. You know, so the end that the enemies are moving towards is like the side of your ship. And I was wondering whether it would be cool for it to have like multiple vulnerable points that have like a certain number of hit points.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say something along the lines of like, could the number of hit points just be represented by like how many surfers get over the side kind of thing, like just how many surfers have boarded, and that would be maybe
I feel like this way it could kind of also like scale with, you know, like a stronger surfer who does more damage. Like you might really want to stop him getting to your weak point, but if he's in this track, then he's like a big problem. But if he is in like a lower down track, you maybe don't have to worry about him so much.
This can be another one of our roles, right?
Yeah,
like
that you could
whoever's at the tiller
could
can move the
them.
boat and thereby like change what position the surfers are in.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, so like yeah, that's quite nice because like you could in the fiction they're moving the boat, but in practice they would just move like a surfer. Or,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. So let me think about some things that you might do then to stop the surfers from causing trouble. Would they always just move on like a simple, let's start with that, do they always just simply move one every turn, like forward? That seems like it would be very
I think
simple
that
to model.
That's a good like baseline, and in theory if we were like fully designing the game we could include some like
fast ones or something.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But to start off with, yeah, they always move in a straight line, so you have to do something if you want them to move. So things you could do, you could put obstacles in their way that would make them have to change lanes and slow them down. Like if there was an obstacle in this guy's way, instead of moving forward one, he would move down one, so he would lose a round of movement.
Yeah.
You could deal damage to them. That seems fairly straightforward. What other things might you want to do? Could you turn them against each other?
Oh, this goes into like a mechanic that I wanted to implement as well. I wanted to have a parlay mechanic where like maybe one of the person's roles is like a parlay role where they can try and turn the surfers against each other.
Oh, so they would have like a chance to do that. Like
yeah, like it'd be like a very slim chance like action kind of thing.
Yeah, like
I don't know what this says about me, but I've just instantly like headcanoned this into like that, you know, just like eyes meet over the edge of the ship. You flirt the surfer into becoming a fully fledged pirate.
Amazing. That's yeah, I'm on board. Yeah. What about things that you might want to do on your ship? Like you could repair. That could be quite a good thing to do. So like these could be your hit points could maybe be represented by like stacks of tokens.
Nice, yeah.
And you could just like, you know, just if one gets taken off, you have the opportunity to use your turn to put one back on.
Yeah.
It seems like we could just have like the shop of actions could either sort of change, or it could be fixed things that are always just priced, you know, like with increasing price. Like what do you think? Like should there just be a set? No, it's boring if it's just a set run of actions, right? Like it should replenish.
I don't know. I think I feel like that could work. Like I've definitely seen that as like a thing in like, you know, in certain like actual play situations like D&D where they've gone like kind of deep with the scenario. It's like you have different actions you can use and they have different costs in like mana or whatever. Although I wonder, it does feel like the kind of thing that could get like a bit more like the type of gamer who really likes to like calculate things out could just always know what the optimal thing to do is. It might lean too hard into the quarterbacking.
Yeah, and there's also the possibility, like if you know if they're cost 1 to 5, for example, then you've basically kind of ranked them in terms of goodness, right? Like
yeah,
you potentially create the situation where you've got like a 5 cost thing that like sends a devastating bow wave that
you
knocks
summon
them
the
all off.
Kraken.
Yeah. So maybe a deck where there's like lots of different costs from, you know, so that you could end up with like a whole run of low cost ones that you could just like burn through quite quickly. And then like you're drawing into different cost abilities all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That would give you the opportunity to have like a bigger variety of stuff that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So you could summon the Kraken or do a tsunami or I don't know, like sink them with a treasure chest or whatever. Like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like borrowing, get hard again from Castle Panic, but there's things that you can do. Like there's a tar token that like stops one enemy from moving that turn. There's there's like a giant boulder which like knocks out everything in one like column of the board, which I guess would be like our cannon fire.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I prefer that, like a deck. So then, because then I think you could have a lot of fun like coming up with, like a bunch of cheap things like, spend one to repair your ship by one, and then, what does spend two do, and so on. And then same for like spend one to deal one hit point of damage to one surfer, spend three to deal one hit point of damage to every surfer that's currently nearby. You can like scale it and put fun like thematics on it.
Yeah.
Um,
There's part of me that kind of wants to like make this. I like it how it is, and I think I want to keep it as like a slightly like unbelievable Pirates v Surfers scenario. There's part of me that feels like maybe this game would be kind of like Bugsy Malone, like where we're not firing cannonballs, but we're firing like
pies.
yeah,
pies. Yeah.
Like it's
like lemons and oranges because we got like scurvy at the sea or something. I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. I think that creates way more opportunity for like just silly stuff. Like I'm quite into that, Mary.
Okay, good.
I like that.
I'm writing silly and I'm emphasizing it as if the listener didn't already know. How are we doing on time, by the way?
We have had about 25 minutes, I think.
So the question that remains unanswered for me is, this just like survive a certain number of waves?
Oh yeah.
Like, survive 5 waves. I think that's a decent enough answer. Or is it like survive 5 waves and accrue a certain amount of doubloons? Or there's like, it could be something where you survive 5 waves, but then the number of doubloons you have at the end is like, sometimes a game will be like, you win and here's how well you won.
Like your pirate rank.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be something like I don't know if this would just end up sort of approximating to like number of turns, but like maybe your ship needs to move a certain number of spaces, like you have like the payload and you're trying to get it to a location.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess the way you lose is like all of your like ship hit points have been.
Yeah, you lose all your ship hit points. But if you still have one ship hit point at the end of the waves, then I would say you've won.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or perhaps like if we have multiple like weak points where hit points can be lost, maybe just depleting one of those would be a loss.
Yeah, I think I like that more Jeopardy. Like that's they've made a hole in your ship, so now you're in trouble. So it would be, I have a feeling that as currently designed, 5 waves would be really quite easy to beat, and that it would get easier the larger number of players you had, because you're only getting a new wave once every player has taken their turn. So if there's 3 players, you're getting a new wave more frequently than if there's 4 players.
Hang on. I guess we may want to like agree between us, like, because we're talking about different kinds of waves. Because with in the scenario where all of the surfers are moving after each turn, I was kind of imagining that the new surfers would also be appearing every turn.
Okay, so
okay, nice.
Or not, but like I
So
just feel like
that
that's...
wasn't what I had been imagining, but I think we need to figure it out. So I will describe what I had been imagining, which was definitely, I think, too easy. So you roll a dice, and that determines how many cards you draw off the surfer deck for that wave. And then they all come on at the same time. So you would draw like, you roll a 4, you draw 4 cards off the deck, and that tells you, you've got like 2 like fast ones, 1 heavy hitting one, and 1 that sets things on fire. And then they all start moving along their channel, and they move forward 1 or 2 for the fast ones, whatever, every time a player starts their turn. So like play moves to the next player, the surfers move forward. So by the time play returns back to player 1, you would repeat that process then.
I mean, I don't see why not, apart from the fact that I think we would want to be like rotating first player around the table in that case. Otherwise, you're kind of like constantly dealing with the same kind of... I mean, it very much simulates a wave, but like you would always have like a lot of surfers hitting the danger zone on the same person's turn kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think you would take a full round, and then you would re-roll for the next wave, and I guess like first player would move. Maybe that's the player that has the captain's hat. Maybe the captain's hat moves around. Something like that. The thing that it causes for me is that like when you've done that 5 times, do you then just like play until the like if you play until all the pirates are gone, then you win, kind of thing?
Like the surfers.
Yeah, the surfers, sorry. Yeah. I feel like currently it doesn't have a lot of jeopardy unless we make the surfers pretty strong or higher numbers. But I'm not sure. Like,
I mean, I think that can be in the balance. I kind of want to like talk through a couple of things here, because you've described your like idea of how the waves work, but we haven't actually done anything to balance it for player count.
Yes. What?
Which is...
I possibly have a solution.
I mean, I guess we could have multiple dice, and we would roll a number of dice equal to number of players to determine, like, the dice would, like they would be some of those ones that have like nothing on one face. And do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like I was definitely imagining that the dice you'd roll would have like, between 0 and 4 or something. What if what I said was exactly wrong, and so you would still do the betting part at the start, so you would still bet like, oh, I think we're strong enough that we'll still be afloat at the end of this round. But you roll a new wave of pirates every player's turn. You roll for more pirates, so you're surviving 5 rounds, but maybe the dice is between 0 and 3. So every new player would introduce between 0 and 3 more new surfers. I keep saying pirates when I mean surfers. Every player's turn would introduce more jeopardy onto the deck. Like, so they would come in a bit more thick and fast.
Yeah.
But you would still be doing like at the start of your round, you would have a look at, like who's left on the board, how much defenses have we built up, and then you sort of determine whether you're going to bet for more doubloons as a group. Now, my other question
I like that.
is, if you're using doubloons to buy the things you want to do, how does that work with the resource across the cooperation?
Ooh, shared or...
Yeah, is there like a shared treasure chest? Or does everyone have their own supply of treasure?
Could different roles start with like different amounts? I'm just inventing pirate capitalism here. But
it determines your chances of success in pirate life.
But like, if we really wanted to lean into like the quarterbacking of the like captain as well, like we can even have it where like the captain can like allocate per turn based on that. If we really wanted to really make someone like really want to break up some friendships here, because
I don't know.
We could have that. Oh, do you want to? Oh, but like either that or like it could be like depending on which role you are in the ship, so that like it has like the replayability of like if someone's like more, yeah.
What?
Okay.
Yeah. So the two possibilities would either be, I do like the idea of each role starting with a different amount of doubloons, and what I like about it is that like you could also use that to maybe kind of balance the strength of people's zero cost ability. So the one who's like the powder monkey is probably going to be pretty good at blowing things up. I guess I was seeing them as being good at blowing things up like when they get close to the ship or something like that. So maybe they have a fewer doubloons.
Yeah,
they start with 2 and someone else starts with 3 or 4, something like that. So I really like it for that. And then if you get a doubloon whenever you destroy an enemy, then you can also build up your own collection. So you could actually just have a little tracker that just sort of shows like how many you have, so how many come back to you at the start of your turn.
Well, some players aren't going to be beating as many enemies, though, are they?
Yeah, if they're like
I was almost imagining the opposite of what you're saying, where like every player has a base number of doubloons, and then any extras that we get kind of go to a shared pool.
Okay, yeah. Okay, no, so yeah, that would be quite good actually. So like any that were sort of earned by destroying other surfers. And then those would be the doubloons that were up for gambling. Like everyone would hold on to their personal supply. So that reduces the opportunity of you ending up with like nothing kind of thing. So there would be, everyone would have their own, but then there would also be like the treasure chest. And you would maybe kind of have to just like check. It would be good form to check with other players before you used a resource from the treasure chest to do something. Okay, yeah, that to me that solves it. That makes me feel like I know how enemies come onto the board, how often enemies come onto the board, how players gain the resources to make the actions they want to make.
All I want to know is when we're doing the like end of a round betting step, what are we comparing with what? Like, are we comparing the number of doubloons we have in our shared supply with a roll of a die? Or
what I thought we were comparing was the number of hit points our ship had at the end of the next round with the number of hit points of surfers that are on the board.
Okay.
Oh, that could be like a good like motive to try and like if we're doing the thing where it like replenishes after everyone's turn, I think that could be like a good incentive for people to like get them out on their turn and stuff because they'll be like updating.
So we would kind of like we would have some kind of tracker that says like I guess there how would we, because I was kind of imagining that the like once we bet the result would be resolved immediately rather than we kind of need to like hold on to information, if that makes sense. Are you
yeah, that's kind of what I was
okay. So someone describe like talk me through how you think it would work.
Well, no, talk me through how you think it would work,
Yeah,
because
because I'm not sure I've got it. Hold on. Here I go. So what I thought, what did I think? I'm not sure if I ever fully conceptualized it. All right.
No, neither, to be honest. Okay.
um
So what the
I think
idea
it
that I loosely had was that you would like put a certain amount of your doubloons aside, maybe with the expectation that if you won the bet you were making, you would double them.
Okay, yeah.
But it would obviously that would be like a risk because you'd have less of the shared pool on that round, but then more on the next round. And hitting the deck would be like, oh, we don't put any up for stake because we need every doubloon we've got just to survive this next round.
I like the idea of betting our doubloons, like whatever we have in like over in reserve at the end of the round, and the idea that we would just double whatever we had, because that like kind of adds extra information to like, is it even worth like betting 2 doubloons, even if we think we're quite likely to win, like it's only an extra 2 doubloons.
Yeah, but then if we have the pirate rank idea where, you know, not only do you win as a team but you gain like you can win really well kind of thing, then that encourages a bit more risky betting.
I'm not sure I follow, but we do still need.
What we were talking about is that like it's a cooperative game, so you win as a team. But if you win with like 8 doubloons in the central store, you've got your like a C rank pirate.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there's like a general team like score.
Yeah, it's just like a way of winning really well.
So then we just need to know what we're comparing with what. And I like the idea of that it could be the ship's hit points, and maybe it's just like, I think it's sort of a bit more, I'm not sure, but it feels a bit more straightforward and elegant to me that we would just like decide whether we're betting or not, and then we would immediately find out whether we were right, rather than needing to like wait.
No, hold on. That doesn't make sense to me because like if you mean like so you would bet then you would roll the strength of the next wave.
Kind of, yeah.
So would it be like an end of turn thing then? Because I guess that makes sense with like because you'd have the doubloons you got from that turn, like the end of wave even.
Honestly, this like, whole time I've been imagining like surfer wave strength being a separate thing to this. Like I've been imagining that the wave that happens at the end of the round is just a big wave, like a big ocean wave. And
okay, no, I have not been imagining that at all.
That's how I originally conceptualized it, but I never like fully went either way on it. But like, yeah, I like the sound of that.
I don't mind how it works. I just think if we're doing it based on like whether we survive or something, I just need to know how that works. That's all.
No, I totally get it. So at the end of a round, at the end of a set of turns, you would choose how much of the like central reserve of doubloons you want to wager, and then you roll for a literal wave, like a tsunami type wave, the strength of that against your hit points. Are we still doing the difference thing?
I feel like the doubloons thing kind of covers for that. I feel like, Ro, because that was just to find out like the amount that you'd gain, but like it would just be like how many doubloons you're willing to stake on it, I guess. Kind of covers that.
And then you would, if you win, you double them, and if you lose, you lose them.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the final question is just like, how do we generate the strength of the wave in a way that's going to be like proportional to the potential hit points of the ship? So like if the ship has 15 hit points and it's just like roll 4d6, like that would work. But would it be more interesting to like use some of the tools that we already have at our disposal? Like, does every player roll a like surfer, the dice that you use to determine how many surfers come out? And then
maybe it could be we roll a die for each surfer that's currently on the board or something like that. Like,
oh, I like that.
Oh, nice. It rewards like getting them off the board. I like that.
Yeah, that's really good. I was working on something similar but not as elegant, I think, which is like you would roll a dice and then multiply it by the number of hit points of surfers left on the board or something like that. But actually, I think it's much better if you've got a dice that rolls between 0 and 3 and there's 5 surfers on the board, then you know that you've got a really good chance of surviving. But if there's like 12 surfers on the board, then you know you probably haven't. Like,
nice, yeah.
So it would actually make your bet a bit more informed.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of like variance within that because you're rolling dice. Like, there's always going to be a kind of gamble.
The like mechanic as well. Maybe that like the ship's hit points like cap out after a certain point, because it could get to the point where potentially like if repairing means like, would it mean that the hit points of the bit you're repairing would go over the base hit points of the ship, or would it stay at like a top amount? It'd like cap out at like 6 or something if you're repairing. So say if it went down to 3, you repair it goes to 4.
Yeah, I had been imagining that it would cap, but then that does make it so that if you're the repairing player, then that's going to be quite boring. Like until the ship takes damage, you're not going to get to do anything. So maybe there isn't, either the repairing player also gets something else they can do, or there isn't a repairing player and actually repair cards are like really rare in the deck and kind of expensive, and you have to decide if they're worth it.
Yeah.
I sort of like the idea that there is a repairing player, or I just like the idea that like we have multiple different roles and they kind of map to what you might do on a pirate ship.
Yeah, I feel very strongly that that's a good part of the design. It's just whether
so we've got 14 minutes on the clock, so we are like,
I think before we get into like the final little bits, I do want to talk about some possible pirate roles. And maybe some possible surfer bad guys.
Yes. Nice.
That definitely doesn't say profiteroles. I need to.
It's parateroles. Yeah, I accidentally made it all one word. I wasn't trying to. So like, I mean, we can just do this as like a very straightforward brainstorm. You've got a captain who you think gets to like do a bit of quarterbacking.
Helmsman, or like, like
helms person. Can redirect surfers. Maybe the carpenter
starts with more doubloons.
Starts with more doubloons and can repair. Or I was gonna say could maybe build like barriers or something, like
nice,
so little shields that the surfers have to deal damage to before they get to you. So that's not like raising, oh god, how do you spell shield? Not like that.
Yeah, just like that. You got it.
Rather than raising the hit points of the ship, sort of literally they are.
Oh yeah, I like that. I think that sidesteps the yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like they're not changing your total number of hit points, but the surfers would still have to deal an extra hit of damage before they get to damage you.
Yeah.
So it would be like a thing that sort of went out in front of the ship. You've got like the sort of bombardier, like the powder monkey. What would the ship's cook do?
Oh my gosh.
Just kind of like buffs everyone, I guess. Like
maybe they can take like one extra action someone can or something if they like feed them a good meal.
Yeah, maybe you get to like use your free action an extra time if the ship's cook like used there.
Yeah,
thing.
that's a good one. You could have like a quartermaster who can do something to do with doubloons.
Mm.
What about the parrot?
Oh, do we want to have the lookout who can
Yes, scribe a
scout?
deck.
Yeah, nice.
What would the parrot do? I guess the parrot just can copy something somebody else did this round, right?
Mm.
I like
Uh,
that.
uh,
Maybe the captain gets a parrot. Like, so that's kind of their ability is just to reproduce a move that someone else made or something like that. Not
oh,
sure.
so they just have like a card that's a parrot, like.
Yeah, yeah. So their zero cost
Nice.
ability is parrot, and they just get to copy. And then what
Oh,
about some villains?
I mean, it depends. Are our surfers also Vikings?
They don't have to be. I was using that to like indicate their kind of strength level, but like I think you should. I guess you've got some like standard ones and some fast ones.
Mm-hmm.
So the fast ones just move two spaces instead of one.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of like heavy, like a
Hmm.
big bro.
Yeah, hits harder.
Maybe he's like, doing some bicep curls while he's on his surfboard.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
maybe some like a pair of twins on uh like
On a catamaran surfboard.
on a double surfboard, and they have twice as many hit points.
Nice, nice.
Um, oh, surfing dog.
Oh yeah, obviously, obviously.
Surfing mermaid
Oh
makes
yeah.
you lose
Oh, like
actions by hurling sailors into the sea or
I was
whatever.
gonna say like
Nice.
distracts you
Yeah,
with general sexiness, but surfers
yeah.
do that anyway.
Um, okay, I'm about it. I think there was another type of pirate that we mentioned, and it briefly went out my head. But anyway, oh, we had the like parlay
Oh
ability.
yes,
Hmm.
the diplomat.
We've got like
Like
a
he was being held hostage on the ship, but like now he's fighting for us and stuff.
Yeah, he's got Stockholm syndrome.
Okay. I there's lots of these that I really like. Like I'm honestly impressed with how many like sort of on ship roles we've managed to
Mhm.
kind of mechanize. Um, so should we start thinking about like, well, should we start thinking about name and visual identity and stuff?
I feel like Hit the Deck is a really good name.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Oh, well
We got
sorted.
it in one.
What about like a like kind of graphic style, color scheme, but things along those lines? Is this kind of like I guess kind of is this sort of a like uh like a sort of oversaturated, overexposed kind of like
Very
bleach,
1980s.
like like I'm thinking about like surfer hair and like like lots of like the vibe of a very sunny
Yeah.
Nice.
but then maybe it could be like jewel
Yeah, two.
style, where like our
Yes.
pirate side is more.
So you would have one
Oh, I
deck
like
of
that.
cards that was like super 80s slash 90s, like color clash, neon, uh, kind of like a garbage pail kid style art for the surfers,
Nah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
collectible Sonic stickers. All of these references meaning nothing to Amelie, who was probably born in the early 2000s.
I know some nice things. It's fine. I know of them.
um, and then another deck that's kind of like got sort of like treasure map edges and kind of brown
I
like
love this. I'm
ink
obsessed with
stained.
this contrast. This is so good.
uh
And then the board is just like fairly realistic.
Yeah.
All right, well, we absolutely nailed the aesthetic. No thinking needed.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a cool treasure scroll.
Yes.
Love it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, then all that remains, I guess, is for us to like do a kind of summary and then hit the outros. Yeah. Georgia, do you want to give it?
Okay, here we go. Yes, I can do this. All right. So we set out today to make a game on the theme of waves. We discussed what this could mean, and the two big ideas that came out were a kind of like surfing ocean waves thing and the idea of waves of enemies, a game where there's sort of repeated waves of enemies that you have to fight off. So we agreed quite quickly that we liked the idea of a tower defense game. So we started thinking about what that might mean, how you might make it work. We wanted it to be a cooperative game that involved cards. And we started thinking about a grid. And this is where the theme sort of started to come into its own, which is that you are playing as a team of pirates defending your ship from murderous surfers who are coming towards you in waves. We had this idea that actions would be drawn from a deck and that you would pay for them with doubloons, and that at the end of a round you would also take some kind of betting action that let you increase the number of doubloons you had, but we hadn't figured that out quite yet. Um, so we talked about different surfers having different strengths, and we agreed that they should be drawn from a randomized deck, but that they should be represented by little standees. And we came up with some ideas for the kinds of things that you might be able to do. We agreed that your ship would have hit points, that losing all of the hit points in one area of your ship would be a loss state, and that winning would be done by surviving 5 full rounds. And that the number of doubloons you had at the end would determine your pirate rank for extra kind of bonus points. We thought that the deck of cards of actions that you can do should have like a wide variety of things at different ranks and different costs. But the extra doubloons that you earn would go into a sort of central resource, which you can use sort of like you would have your own doubloons, but then there's also a central resource that you could dip into, but those would also be up for betting. We then finally decided we had to figure out what was happening with the betting. And what we determined is that at the end of a round, any unspent doubloons would be available for wagering, and that you could double those by wagering the hit points of your ship versus a big wave that was coming your way, a literal wave, like an ocean wave, which was calculated by rolling dice by the number of surfers left on the board, and comparing that to your ship hit points. And if your ship hit points are higher, then you double your money. Finally, we talked about some possible pirate roles and what different pirates on your ship might be able to do, whether that's repairing, bombing, redirecting attackers, buffing other players, copying other players, parlaying so that you can convince surfers to join your side. And then we imagined some enemy surfers, such as a fast one, a heavy one, a dog one, and a mermaid. So you win the game by surviving 5 rounds where surfers join the board on every player's turn. You lose the game if you take enough damage on one area of your ship to lose an entire stack of hit points. The game is called Hit the Deck. And the aesthetic is a real sort of mashup contrast of super 1990s, slightly bleached out pink, yellow, and blue neon surfer culture with a sort of crusty brown treasure map vibe. I've got to say, this one I think is a certified banger.
How are you feeling, Amelie?
I love it. I love the description of the pirate stuff as crusty. I'm imagining like full like primary school, like making this map look old, like ripping up a bit, doing the tea bag, like staining on it. But like I want it to be
burning the
real.
edges a little bit with help from a responsible adult.
Of course. If you're going to make your own version of Hit the Deck, please don't burn anything without the help of a responsible adult.
We won't be held responsible for it if you do. This
Yeah,
has
yeah,
been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank you
Amelie.
so much for having me. I've had a lot of fun.
Where can our listener find you or support you or such, if anything like this?
Yeah, I'm on like most social media as at Amal Adams. I don't really post much unless people want to hear my Ace Attorney hot takes.
I
But if
do.
that is some, oh, okay, we'll chat, we'll chat. But yeah, that's mainly like what I'm at, and yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. This has been so fun.
It
It
has
was
been the best.
it was great. Well, I'll see you soon.
Yes.
I guess as always, just reminding the to I guess check out the blogs, where I kind of like do like summaries of the different game ideas we come up with episode by episode. I'm a little behind at the moment, but you can find those at bigcrowgames.co.uk/blog. And yeah, thanks so much, Amelie. Thank you so much, listener. We love you. And come back next time for more Pro Jam.